flexibility contortion shapes that I used to be able to do that I can no longer do anymore. That's what we're going to talk about today. And why do I want to bring this subject up? There's so much out there on YouTube that says, get your splits in 5 minutes, or do this for 10 minutes every day and you'll have your contortion chest stand, or even just warm up regular videos from contortionists like Anna McNulty, where she is doing something that could take someone else years and years to get, or someone else might never get. And if they tried to do that in the warm-up, they might break their body in half. And I think it's important to discuss that there's different types of bodies and everyone's contortion journey could be different. Let me give you a quick little background about myself. So I was a musical theater performer growing up and in my early 20s. And because I did musical theater, I took a lot of dance classes. So I had a baseline flexibility. I could do a sloppy unsquare split on one side of my body. When I got into my late 20s, I started discovering I had a ton of body issues from training ballet. Turned out training more on one side than the other. I have a crooked pelvis. I was getting injured really quickly. It wasn't until I started training contortion in my mid-30s and I began learning more about the body that I started to become really flexible. And when I first started training, I felt like I'm just doing this for fun. I could never be an actual contortionist because I wasn't built that way. But as I began training more and more, I discovered how much control I actually had over my body. And when after the pandemic, I stopped training as much, even though I was still training, I started to see how much I lost without a consistent, intense amount of training. And I want to go through each pose to show you guys that with hard work, you can achieve these poses, but it might take you longer than it would take someone else, especially without a background, especially with starting as an adult. So don't believe every YouTube video you see. All right, let's get into it. So the first thing I want to bring up is my 4-block oversplit. I still have an oversplit. I can do it with 2 blocks and it hurts. Like I can feel a deep strain. And for me and my body, if I was to say what natural flexibility do I have, it would be hamstrings. That's why I know for me, the only thing I would have to do to get back my 4-block oversplit, and just so you know, I still have a 1 or 2 block oversplit. But to get back my 4-block oversplit, I'd have to do some more hamstring conditioning exercises like hamstring lifts, making sure that they were nice and strong. And then I would also have to build up to it by holding my 2-block oversplits longer and then maybe going to 3 blocks. And then from there, going back to 4 blocks. So that is pose number 1. I cannot do right now, 4-block oversplit, both front and back leg. Pose number 2, and this isn't necessarily a pose, it's more like an exercise or an action, but I cannot roll into my chest stand anymore. Thing is, once I roll in, it's harder for me to get my butt over my head, so I just roll right out. It took me a long time to get into my chest stand that way. I've been to a lot of contortion classes where the teachers swear that this is the easiest way to get into a chest stand, and to that I say, I think you're crazy. Sorry, maybe it is for some bodies, but for me, once you roll in, again, you have to find that stacked position. And if you don't get there, it's just going to be impossible to hold yourself up. So that is number 2. I've also lost that because it is scary. I mean, it feels like you're just about to throw your face down on the floor. Of course, you're supposed to look up. But again, if you don't have a super flexible neck or chin, you might very well end up making out with the ground. No one wants that. 2 reasons I lost it: fear and lack of butt stack. Bow pose with an overhand grip, except I'm just starting to get it back, but I can barely hold my toes now, and I have a hard time staying upright. I was working on walking down my legs more. I had a firm, solid grip on my ankles. I was also able to get into my bow pose by going from a cobra pose, grabbing my feet, and just being in my bow pose that way. So why? One, I have wrist issues. I have a little bit of carpal tunnel here from so much video editing, which is your fault. Thank you very much, viewers. That makes it really hard to twist my arms because it starts to hurt my wrist. So I kind of avoid practicing it. Number two, I need to do a lot more cobra poses because my cobra pose in general has lost its deepness. Whenever I try and put my feet towards my head, my thighs just cramp up. It's unbearable. I definitely need to build more quad strength, more back strength, all of that stuff. So lack of a bow pose is due to injury, but also it's due to lack of strength. All right, one-legged inverted staff pose. I think this looks so pretty. And I can do it without grabbing my foot, but that's not impressive. So it's a forearm wheel, but you're holding one foot as you lift the other foot up. I think for me, that's a lack of upper chest openness and shoulder flexibility. You do have to have strength in order to do this pose. Since I can do forearm stands, I know that the strength is still there for this, but when I go to grab that foot, it feels like my upper chest is going to explode, and it just feels like it's just too big of a stretch on my shoulders. Again, I can still do it without grabbing that foot, lifting the other leg up. But if I want to grab that foot, I have to open up a lot here more. It's hard because I do a lot of aerial silks where I'm actually doing the opposite. I'm closing here and I'm building strength doing this kind of stuff because that's how you invert on the silks. One of my contortion coaches recommended, like immediately after every aerial silks class, just doing all the pec stretches just to get all of that closed oftedness out of the body. Closed oftedness, is that a real word? I have 4 more things, and the first one I already kind of brought up, but it's improving my cobra pose, getting my feet to my head. So when I first started on my cobra pose feet to head journey, it felt impossible. But I got it to a place where after maybe like a 20-minute warm-up, I was able to do it. But now I can only do it if someone pushes my feet there. And the thing is, it doesn't hurt me. I've posted a bunch of videos where I have a friend pushing my feet to my head, and I get comments like, oh my God, be careful, they might jam your lower back. And I feel zero pain when someone puts my feet to my head, which shows me it's not a lack of flexibility, it's a lack of strength. So I think all the active quad stuff, all the active back flexibility stuff, anything that will help me just pull those feet in towards my head, but also help me reach back from my chest, my upper back, backwards towards my feet. That's how I'm going to get that back. The final 3 things were white whales for me. Even when I was training every single day, they were still, oh, maybe I have this skill or this pose today, maybe not, I don't know. The first one is an ankle grab or teardrop from a wheel pose. So what's so frustrating about this now is I am nowhere near it. Back when I was training all the time, I could at least graze my fingers against my heels every time, even on like a bad, non-flexible day. But there was maybe only like 2 or 3 times I was actually able to grab on to my ankles. And even then I would have never like included that pose in like a performance or anything like that. But man, when I got it, it was just like the best feeling. And again, that all goes back to, for me, it's tightness in my shoulders and my pecs, because I can't walk in anymore. I don't feel it in my back. I feel it all up here. And this is a lack of back flexibility, but also probably a little bit lack of strength is my forearm stand pull through. So that's when you go into a forearm wheel pose, start pulling your head through your arms and your feet lift off. And the more flexibility you have in your back, strength is important, but the more flexibility you have in your back, the easier it will be for your feet to lift off. And right now, since I don't have that feet to head easily in a Cobra pose, it's just, I have to use more strength to actually get my feet off the ground in this pose. And I don't quite have that much activation strength when I'm using my shoulders to help pull my body through and lift those feet up. And the final thing that I can no longer do anymore, and to me this is devastating, and I really want to start working back towards this skill. The only thing is that when you don't feel flexible, this is the suckiest skill to work on, but it's getting my feet to the ground in a chest stand. I had like a period where I was able to do it regularly every time I got my feet flat to the ground, or even just get my toes on the ground. It just felt so cool. It made for some cool photographs. Whenever I did that, I just felt like a real contortionist. And I started from a place of barely being able to kick up into any sort of chin stand even. So to get my feet all the way down to the ground was amazing. What can I do now? I can almost tap my toes to my head briefly, but it just feels like garbage. I feel like I'm choking the whole time. I could never do this in a performance and hold the pose. It just feels awful. And for this, besides, again, all the neck strength, the quad strength, the back strength, I definitely need to work on stretching out my neck because everything crunches up. It feels so tight and it's just too much for my head and my neck to hold my whole body overhead on top of me. So just to give you guys a quick idea of how much I used to train and how much I'm training now, was during the pandemic when I was able to do all of these fancy things. I was training 2 to 3 hours a day. I was also training aerial less because I had less access to silks because it was the pandemic. Now I take 1 contortion class a week. Otherwise, I occasionally have 1 or 2 stretching sessions alone, maybe about an hour to an hour and a half of work alone per week. And I also stretch when I take aerial classes, and I'm usually taking about 4 aerial classes a week. So there's so many contortionists out there. I watch their videos and they say, I just make sure I set aside a half hour a day and I can do this. Or I just put myself in a gym and I do this. And I've seen so much progress. And what I'm guessing is either they put in years and years of work when they were younger, or their bodies just happen to be more open than my body. But the important thing is I keep putting in whatever work I'm able to put in. And that way, if I want to go back and get my chest stand, get my forearm stand pull through, get my teardrop, I know what I have to do to get there. I guess we could call this a flexibility maintenance season. It's not my season to train hard. So if you are watching all of these YouTube videos or taking classes and you are not able to do the skills that you think you should do, one, if you have more time to devote to it, maybe that's what your body needs. You just need to live in stretches longer in order to be able to achieve those things. Or maybe this is just your maintenance season. Anyway, I hope this video maybe helped you in some capacity get a better, more clear idea on what maybe you need to do for your flexibility journey. If you don't mind hitting the like and subscribe button with the notification bell on, I'd super duper appreciate it. And until the next time, I hope you guys all have a fit and fabulous day. Bye-bye.